The best friend of conservatives is the media itself, for a couple of reasons. Number one, conservatives have been saying all this time, oh, it's the liberal media, it's the liberal media. And the idiots in the media have been going, oh yeah, we're so liberal, right? The second reason is because in reality, they're massively pro-establishment and pro-government. That's why you see us doing stories every day about how CNN and Fox News all agree that the NSA is right and they should do spying on Americans, even though it's been declared unconstitutional by a federal judge. But the government is always right. Oh, WikiLeaks is bad. Julian Assange is someone who should be hunted down in an international manhunt. So should Edward Snowden. All the press agree and say it over and over and over again, especially on television. So they love the establishment, and the establishment is conservative and wants to protect its power. But they sent out the reporters to say, oh yeah, well, Rush got us, oh yeah, we're definitely liberal. And you couldn't find a better example of that than a Politico Breakfast, which is perfect because Politico doesn't get any more establishment than that. And they bring in four mainstream journalists: CNN anchor Jake Tapper, New York Times Magazine writer Mark Leibovich, New York Times reporter Peter Baker, and NBC political reporter Kelly O'Donnell. And at first, they asked them this interesting question. They said, look, we'll get into nuance later, but yes or no answer, is the media biased in favor of liberals? Watch.
The news media leans left, yes or no? Yes. Kelly.
I think...
That's already 3 words.
Yeah. In places, yes, but not entirely.
Mark?
Yes.
Peter?
Yeah, there are moments, but there's more to say about that.
There is more to say.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. These guys don't represent the media, and if they do, ironically, they do already represent it in a totally establishment conservative way, and then they go out and say, oh yeah, we're totally liberal. Yeah, the way we say the NSA is right about everything, government's always right, no matter what. You know, and the people in power and the rich are always right, and the Occupy should be made fun of and derided, ha ha ha. But the Tea Party is really, really important. They're a very important political force, but I spit on Occupy. You see how liberal we are? Oh yeah, you caught us, Mike Allen of Politico. You're right. Let's just tell everybody we're liberal. It's ridiculous. So they're going to expound upon that. Here's Mark Leibovich first.
Speaking in Washington, D.C., as a resident of Washington, D.C., as someone who practices journalism here, in this town, I can say I rarely talk about politics with my colleagues. Most of my colleagues, I have no idea what their politics are, including everyone sitting on the stage. But, I mean, think about it. I live in Northwest Washington. None of my neighbors are evangelical Christians. I don't know a lot of people in my kids' preschool who are pro-life. I just think, and I think when you do have conversations in all the newspapers I've worked at, about politics, doesn't happen often, but you see clues that there is absolutely a leftward lean.
Now look, Mark Leibovich is an interesting character, and he wrote an interesting book about Washington where he made fun of Washington, and I enjoyed that, and there was a lot of truth in that book, and I understand what he's saying about his neighbors and how they happen to be more liberal environment in that area of town. I understand that, right? At the same time, I mean, think about what frauds these guys are. Like, so they don't know the political opinions of any of the reporters? They've never had a human conversation? So they're all working news and politics, and they don't know what any of them actually think about politics. Gee, I wonder why we don't trust you anymore. Do we think that you're some sort of non-biased robots that come out and have no political opinion? If we did, well, then if you are, then you should be fired. For decades you spent in politics, and you're like, political, I have no idea. How could you have no idea? And how could you not know or have conversations with each other about what is the right thing to do in politics? Because they don't give a damn. It's a game to them. It's a game. They don't give a damn what's right or wrong. They don't care about what the government is doing or how it's being bought up. So they do the horse race analysis all the time. Oh, who's got more money? Oh, Mitt Romney takes the lead. He's gotten more bribes than others. Think about it. They brag about that. They view that as like an important metric, like, oh, Mitt Romney did a great job of taking all that money. No, those are legalized bribes. But do you ever report that? No, because I have no opinion on politics. It's going to get much worse with Jake Tapper here.
glad I had a chance to expand, because I know just the 4 yes yeses are going to be taken by Brent Bozell, and that's the end of it. But it is much more complicated and complex, which is a certain type of person becomes a reporter. And generally speaking, these are people who have not, generally speaking, I'm not saying every reporter in the world, but generally speaking, the kind of person who is a reporter in Washington, D.C. or New York City has never worked a minimum wage job outside of high school, you know, when they work at Baskin Robbins or whatever, has never experienced poverty, is not an evangelical Christian, like much of the country is. You know, there are a lot of experiences that the kinds of people who are reporters, editors, producers, et cetera, in Washington, D.C. and New York City have not had. Now, that said, I think there is an awareness of that, and when there is an awareness of it is when the best journalism can happen, because then people are aware of the country that they're writing for, the country that they're on TV for, and the desire to get out of Washington, get out of D.C. and talk about experiences. But it's not just that the media leans a little bit left. Most reporters, I don't know their political leanings, but most publications, you can kind of get a sense of what the editors are thinking. I would put a lot more on the editors and the senior producers than I would put on the day-to-day reporters. But you don't see a lot of coverage of poverty. You don't see a lot of coverage of troops. You don't see a lot of coverage of faith.
Yeah, it's hard for a human being to be more wrong than Jake Tapper was there on so many counts. Let me quickly go through them. First of all, reporters, I mean, we don't know what minimum wage is. I do declare. I know you work at ABC News, or I'm sorry, he used to work at ABC News, now works at CNN. And I know you've been highfalutin for a long time. But if you work in local news, you're lucky to make $24,000 a year, okay? You're not living the high life. And that's most of the reporters in the country. And that's television. Work in print. See how much money you make. If you don't struggle with poverty, that's because you haven't been in that circle, Jake. You're in a different circle where the establishment and the government is always right. And well, look at that, you got all those promotions, Jake. When all you would do on TV is go on, it's the government's right, government is right, government is right, and it's a Republican president is wonderful and should be praised, and the Democratic president is wonderful and Occupy sucks, and the liberals are not the real country. That's the second point that drives me crazy. Well, we have to have an awareness of the country we actually report for. Much of the country is evangelical. Well, about 25% of the country is evangelical. 75% is not. When you want to talk about the politics of the actual country, well, look at the polls. Over 80% want to protect Social Security under every condition. They will not cut the budget if it means cutting Social Security under any circumstance. Go look at the polls. Same for Medicare. Over 70% approval of Medicaid. That nobody wants to go to a war in Syria. You name an issue. Raising the minimum wage, 60, 70%. You name an issue. And the country that you're reporting on is actually liberal. But you don't know that because you internalize what the conservatives said. And, you know, I guess you're an elitist. I guess you think you're a liberal, which is a joke, which is hilarious, right? And you sit up there and you go, well, I do declare, aren't we all fabulously rich in the media here? Now, you and your friends are, but not everybody else. And you think, oh my God, we must be the minority. Russia's right. Fox News is right. The whole country is conservative. That's because you didn't do your job. You never looked at the polls. You don't care about the news. You don't actually care about any of the issues. So you don't know because you didn't bother to check. If you did, you would know that the country is actually totally liberal on those issues. And part of the reason that they don't vote liberal all the time, and even though the Democrats, of course, control the Senate and have had more votes in the House or in macro and have the presidency. But put that aside, they don't vote as liberal as they indicate their positions are in the polls because of money in politics, which, Jake, you never report on. Because you love the money in politics. Well, it's a horse race. It's fantastic. Oh, yeah, the country's conservative. No, it's not. Do your job. And then finally, the editors. Are you kidding me? You mean the editors at the New York Times who had stories about how Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction and put it on page A17 and A27 and took Judy Miller's nonsense propaganda crap about how Iraq was so dangerous and put it on page 1? Those editors? No. The editors are the worst of the worst. They're the most conservative, most pro-establishment people there are. If there's any good writers, and there are plenty of good writers in the media, especially in newspapers, their stories get buried. The editors always go with the pro-government position. And that is not a liberal position. That is an establishment, pro-conservative, never change who's in power position. Now, why do you think the people in the media don't want to change who's in power? Because they're in power. Because Jake Tapper has a very fancy job in a very fancy suit with a handkerchief in his pocket. He doesn't want any change. Change is liberal. Change is progressive. He doesn't want any of it. So he uses the Rush Limbaughs of the world as an excuse to say, well, you know, they're right. The country must be right wing, and we're also liberals, and we're so sorry. We're so sorry. We'll try to go even further right in our nonsense reporting. When's the last time you actually delved into an issue and gave a damn about it and actually knew where the American people stood? Never. Yes, the media sucks at their job. The mainstream media is an absolute embarrassment. But liberal? What a joke.